Welcome to the 1-2 podcast by Utmp.
We had great camaraderie. I think the fan-player relationship was incredible.
It's the best changing room by a mile that I've been in.
You know, owners does, Trev or whatever it was he did. And I'm sure, you know, Blackpool fans won't give a damn about that.
It's just a short reminder to let you all know that our BSC Legend mugs are now on sale through our UTMP shop and also available on eBay too. This is going to help us raise some money to improve our content further and to go towards the running costs of the website too. How was it coming up through the ranks at Blackpool and the youth setup there at the time? How was that for you?
It's difficult for me to say because I didn't really spend too much time at the academy at Blackpool. I used to play for a club called Boundary Park Juniors, and our scout, who I'm still friends with now, Sid Rimmer, who was the manager there, was a scout for Sam Ellis, who I still see now because he lives in the area. And Sid obviously told Sam that I was a good kid. I was about 13 at the time, and convinced me to sign. I was at Oldham School of Excellence with Willie Donachie at the time, and convinced me to sign for Blackpool, saying I'd have a better chance of getting in the first team, which I actually believed. And then, literally, as soon as I signed the contract, I won a scholarship to live away, getting me off the streets of Manchester, which was probably a good thing. And I went to Lilleshall for 2 years, which was the Bobby Robson School of Excellence, where I was playing with players like Andy Cole, Flitcroft, Chris Makin, loads of lads who went on to make it and play for England. So I think that was kind of the area where I moulded my skills and got to a level where, as soon as I left school, I come to Blackpool and went straight into the first team.
Wow.
I was going to ask you about why Blackpool, because obviously I think you were born in London, weren't you, and you moved to Manchester. So Blackpool was a bit of a random one, but I suppose you've answered that in terms of making your debut at 16 and getting that shot early on to make your way in the game. Yeah,
well, I mean, I have to say, I mean, obviously I've got an academy now, which I work on hard with the kids from our community, and it's one of them where when I was there from 14 to 16, we used to do 3 weight sessions a week. We used to train every day. We had a Saturday off where we'd go shopping, but I had no money, so I was bored. And then on a Sunday, we'd go and have a game against a team, like it might be a Villa, it might be a Manchester United, it might be a Tottenham, but always a year up. Because we were kind of a select group. If we played our own age group, we'd always smash them. So we were playing a team a year older, which was usually an elite team. We were training every day, and we were doing weights 3 times a week. And it was more, I mean, Dave Sexton, I think he was a coach. He was our coach there. It was a bit before his time. He'd do a lot of leg weights. He'd do a lot of core. And it's kind of what I do with my players now at the academy. But anyway, so doing that for 2 years, physically, I went in as a boy and I came out quite developed. You know, I've always loved training, and there was that camaraderie and that competition as 14 to 16-year-olds had. And I remember when I first went in there, I was probably one of the smallest, and I couldn't really get on the ball, or I'd lose, not so much races, I'd get pushed out of the way and strength out of the way. And then by the end of it, I'd get there, I wouldn't even have any challenge because I'd increased my speed and my centre of gravity and my explosive start to a race so much that it was almost too easy for me at Lilleshall towards the end. So I actually thought I was ready. I'd been waiting for ages to get in the Blackpool first team, and obviously I've never been one who's lacked confidence. So when I got there, I got put in with the first team, scored straight away, and I started showcasing what I had, and the gaffer's gone, get him in. So, I was happy to get in, and I think it was a record at the time for the club.
That's pretty amazing. It sounds a pretty intense sort of training as well. 3 weight session a week. Yeah, that's quite good. Just mentioned the gaffer then. How was playing under Billy?
Oh, I think as a coach now, myself, and I know I'm not at any level, but I think it's there's a story that I tell people, because when you're young, you're learning things, and there was two like homeless people having a massive row about one of them, you know, cheated or whatever. And I was watching this row develop, and I thought, and so, like the penny dropped in. I thought it doesn't matter what level you're at, it's always important to you. So these might be, you know, they might be homeless, they might not have a pot to piss in, but they love each other. And how is that different to love just because you're wealthy and you live in a mansion and all that? So as a coach, I always thought whatever level I coach at, because I always knew that I wanted to coach, I want to try and be a little bit like Billy, because Billy was a caring man. He was firm, but I think because you built up that relationship with him where you knew that he cared for you, and you knew that he wanted you to do as well as you can, then he can get into you a little bit. And I'm like that as a coach. You know, I bring the boys in. They struggle to start with because they're not used. Some of them have never been to an academy, so they're not used to training every day. So you have to kind of help them mentally get over that, and help them, give them like different techniques how to recover better. And then as they get used to the training every day, and they trust you because you've kind of earned that trust and you've built up that relationship, then you can really get into them and start getting them to push themselves and challenge themselves to be probably better than they ever thought they could be. So as a coach, Billy was like that. He was a superb man to work for. And yeah, it was absolutely heartbroken when he died. And I'm still in touch with Rachel now and, you know, the family. So yeah, no, left a mark on me for sure.
What was the club like at the time? Obviously, like early 90s.
Yeah.
What was it like?
Late 80s, I'll have you in mind. 89, I think it was, when I made my debut. You know what? It was a club completely different to the club that Owen Oyston had at the end. You know, they had the stadium. They had, you know, even when they got into Premier League and on that kind of downward spiral, it was a complete opposite. We didn't have a pot to piss in. We had great camaraderie. I think the fan-player relationship was incredible. Like, I used to go out having a bev with the lads and that in town, Yateses and all sorts, Cotton Club and all that. You'd always bump into fans. And I loved it. I loved the club. You know, we'd break down on the way back from Oxford and on the coach and be absolute in shit street. But we loved it. I think the top player was on probably 250. And it was just a great group. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, very good players as well. You know, you think about Dave Bamber, you know, potentially could have gone to some big clubs. David Ayres definitely could have played in the Premier League. Tony Rodwell, Briggs, he played at the top level when he was a youngster. We were getting him towards the end of that, but he was still an amazing person to play with. Mark Taylor, you know, he had the potential to play higher. Groves there. So it was full of talent, and it was a really good breeding ground for me and a good way for me to learn. I think they looked after me, you know, on the pitch. I remember one game, we had a corner, and it got cleared, and I was just, you know, jogging back, and centre-half's come up beside me, elbowed me, nearly took my tooth out. And the lads were all over this guy, you know, like literally hounding him, and they'd look after me, but there was also a bit of responsibility that I had to look after myself and learn quickly. And I think when you're getting smashed about like that, you do tend to learn quicker and be on your guard in future. So yeah, no, it was a great club, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and I will always be very thankful for the opportunity that Blackpool Football Club gave me.
Still in touch with any of those lads now?
And Owen Oyston, really. Yeah. You know, I know Owens gets destroyed off people, but he did give me that opportunity, and, you know, I will always thank him as well.
Yeah, obviously don't want to go into it too much, but Owen seemed to get a lot of the rap, didn't he, for the bad stuff that happened sort of 5-6 years ago, but it was really his son, wasn't it? We all know that. But
yeah, I think Owen loved the club. I think Owen loved the club, and, you know, he was an 80-plus man when all this was starting to unwind, and I think, you know, I don't want to talk out of turn, but reading between the lines, I think he was taken advantage of, and he took a brunt of the crap from the fans, which is a shame, because he did build a beautiful club, and you know, the fan base and everything, and getting to the Premier League was what an amazing achievement that was for him and the club and supporters. It's just a shame how it all ended up finishing off.
You then obviously moved on to QPR. How did that move come about?
Just like, I think, actually there's this funny story in there. Me getting into trouble as usual. So we went to Spain because we just won the promotion, And I'd got involved in some shenanigans, as I do. And so the lads ended up coming back without me. I'd been locked up for a misdemeanour. And I think they had a bit of a panic up the club because they thought, well, I was an asset. The club's interested. I think City, I played a game behind closed doors for City, which I wanted to join City as a City fan. But Peter Swales wouldn't put the money up for me and Alan Wright. I think that they wanted about 300 grand or 350 for us each. So it would have been a 700 grand deal. But Wrighty ended up going and doing fantastically well at Blackburn. And then, so when I got back from this trip, after having a bit of a run-in with the law, Owen sent me to the Lake District. He said, get out of the way. Like, even then, there was a bit of paparazzi in that. So I've had to deal with this shit for decades, by the way. So he put me out the way in this lovely hotel. And then he's gone, right, the deal's done. We've got you moved. QPR, £1 million. Go down. This is Jerry Francis' number. So at the time, I was in a battered, like, I don't know, Escort or something, XR3, like a beaten up thing that I used to just rag all over the gaff. So I've gone down and I've met Jerry, and he was a lovely guy, obviously ex-player, top man. You know, you could tell that he was dealing with developing players, developed Les Ferdinand really well, amongst others. And he told me the club, and we shook hands. So he said, right, we'll get the contract ready. You go back to the hotel and come and meet us tomorrow, and we'll do like a bit of a press day where you sign it. So I went back to the hotel, and the phone rang in the hotel, and I thought, who's that? So I picked the phone up, and it was Kenny Dalglish. So Kenny's gone, Trevor, it's Kenny Dalglish. Listen, I know that you've agreed to sign, but you've not signed yet. Blackburn want to sign you. And I was like, oh my God, because I was a Celtic fan as well. My dad was from Glasgow. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, Kenny, I can play for Kenny Dalglish. But then I thought, you know what, I'm a loyal man. I don't want to mug myself off or mug Jerry Francis off. And I'm going to have to stick to my word. So, or my handshake, whatever. So I said, listen, Kenny, I love you to bits and I'd love to play for you, but I've already agreed to sign. I've not signed anything, but I've already agreed to sign. And he respected that. We put the phone down, and that was that. Anyway, Blackburn went on to win the league that year. I was absolutely devastated. But I had a brilliant time at QPR, you know, working under Jerry, Frank Sibler, working, you know, meeting Ray Wilkins. What a blessing that was. And what a travesty that is as well. Devastated when he died. But working with Les Ferdinand, I actually remember going to the first game, and it was 1-1 with about 10 minutes to go, and QPR got beat 4-1. And I just watched Les Ferdinand for the whole game, and I thought, wow, I couldn't believe how far away I was from what he was at that time. And obviously Les went on to do amazing things, joined the 100 Club in the Premier League, and just like, even to this day, he's someone that I really look up to, respect. One of my first I would say one of my first superstars that I worked with and really respected. So no, the time at QPR was brilliant. A little bit edgy towards the end because I picked up an injury, but in general I had a fantastic time there. And
in '97, you had a special moment against Barnsley. Do you want to talk us through that amazing overhead kick?
Yeah, it was. Listen, I did it in training. I did it in training for Blackpool. I did it in training for QPR. It was something that it was almost like a marquee move for me. It came quite naturally to me. And actually, watching one of my lads at the academy, at Blackpool Academy, play a couple of years ago, and I bumped into Willie Donachie, who was my coach at Oldham when I was playing for Boundary Park Juniors, and I got talking to him. He went, you know that, because I'd not seen him for tens of years, and again, fantastic coach, really good role model, fit as a fiddle. I like to see coaches that are fit because I think it sends out the right message to the players. And Willie was always that, even to this day. I think he does yoga and he still looks after himself. And Willie said to me, Trevor, you know that goal you scored for QPR? He said, I'd seen it loads of times on the AstroTurf at Oldham. So, yeah, it was like, listen, it was a brilliant goal. I think the fact that I did it week in, week out in training, it's almost like, if a ball comes in from the left, which was stupid that I played on the right, because if a ball comes in from the right and it comes anywhere in this zone, I felt like I could finish it with a scissor kick or an overhead kick. So I should have played on the left a lot more, and I might have scored more of them. But no, it was just one of them. It connected perfectly. All the stars aligned, and I'm just glad that I would get remembered for something really positive as well.
You mentioned playing on the left as well. That brings us on really to the 2002 World Cup, where you filled the that England had for so many years in the left midfield, and did put a good account for yourself, really, didn't you, in that World Cup?
Yeah, I've never really watched it back. I just remember it being just like ridiculously big. I was sad at the time because I just thought I earned the right to be in the squad anyway. And again, I think Sven, if you think about it, he was playing like Danny Murphy on the left, putting square pegs in round holes again. But it was a bit of luck on my side and unlucky for Danny, but he got injured and they brought me in, and I don't think England would have done that well if Danny hadn't got injured. So I grasped that opportunity. It was, obviously the highlight of any player's career to play in the World Cup finals, and to beat the arch rivals, Argentina 1-0, and it was just amazing. And I remember the fanfare, and we used to watch like maybe 10-15 minutes of TV back from England, and the scenes in the pubs and on the streets, and that it just made you so proud. But I was shitting myself because the only thing I used to think is when I was like, because when I actually came on, I think Joe Cole was ill, Kieran Dyer was injured, which is not a shock. I always leave a little bit on Kieran, and Owen Hargreaves got injured. So when Steve McLaren looked over at this stadium, the roof was on. There was flags from everywhere: Blackpool, London, the Midlands, and you kind of, it's a way you feel there's a massive responsibility. But I was like 24th man out of a 23-man squad. I just scraped in as the 23rd man because of an injury. I thought, I'm not playing. I'm taking this in, so I'm buzzing, thinking, look at this, like me warm up. I've got a right spring in my step. And then I see Steve McLaren go like that, Trev, come here. And I thought, who does he want? And I'm looking behind me thinking somebody's behind me. And it was me. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, do not let the country down. So I absolutely shit myself. So I went on and I just thought, right, first pass, make sure it's a good one, keep the ball, take responsibility. And then I ended up probably getting the better of Zanetti, which is just mad. And it was just an amazing night. And then obviously getting to the quarterfinals, it was going to plan against Brazil, and conceded just before half time after being 1-0 up through Michael Owen. And yeah, nearly, man.
Was the plan, well, I don't want to say the plan, but did you feel like you could go a bit further? Obviously, Ronaldinho can't do much about that, but...
We thought we could win it, yeah, we did. We didn't. We thought if we can get past Brazil, and if you think about their front line was Ronaldo, Rivaldo and Ronaldinho, if we can get past them, we've got a great chance. If we can get the better of a forward line like that. And it was going to plan. We was frustrating them. We had a deep block. They were struggling to create chances. We scored on the counter-attack with Michael Owen's pace, which we thought we would, because Michael Owen was so quick and dangerous and clinical. And we were good. We were. I think we were a really, almost like an old George Graham Arsenal side, where we slot across laterally. I mean, and for me, it was second nature, because that's how Jerry taught us. He's super. I think he come 8th in the Premier League with probably the bottom 3 budget when we was at QPR, and it was all about, you shape in possession and you shape out of possession. And that's where I kind of learned that you can supersede expectations as an individual player and as a collective if you do certain things in and out of possession. And as a coach, that's what I try and preach as well, and teach the players that I work with. So, yeah, it was going to plan, and we thought if we could get through that, and if we would have got to half time, it could have been a different story, being 1-0 up. But fortunately, Rivaldo scored, and I sometimes wake up in a cold sweat watching Rivaldo take his blue Brazil top off, and have that bright banana yellow vest underneath, celebrating. Yeah, what could have been?
In the dressing room, obviously in the later years, we hear about how England didn't perform well.
I thought you were going to say he was the biggest in the dressing room. He was the longest in the dressing room. It's a family show. David James.
Love it. Just in the later years, we heard about basically England not performing very well, and they put it down to the rivalries in the Premiership. I just wanted to ask you what you felt the sort of camaraderie was like in the England dressing room.
I would say I don't like to use the word clique, but you're in the trenches with 3 or 4 of your mates at Manchester United or Liverpool or Chelsea. Of course, you're going to be close. You're going to gravitate towards it. Your mates, you know what I mean? So that did happen a lot. I weren't bothered. I've always been a bit of a social butterfly. I can get on with anyone. And I remember like chatting to Gareth quite a lot on the coach in that tournament. But I can understand some people, and I think the media don't help. I think what Gareth's done with the media has been great, because what he's done is he's opened the doors. He's made it a lot more of a collective, not them and us. It's kind of us all together. If England do well, the media do well out of it. They've got easy stories to print. It's all positivity for the country. And I think Gareth's kind of got that. I think there's a much better relationship between the media and the players now. But yeah, it was a natural thing. But again, the media, I don't know why you would stir stuff up and make it a big deal and make an excuse for not performing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you've got 10 clicks. If they go out and become brothers and they're in the trenches together and get success, no one's going to give a crap. So I think it was just an excuse for poor performances, really, and something to write about and kind of create a story. But for me, I always got on well with everyone, and it wasn't a problem.
Yeah, that's good. Good to hear. Based on all the teams you played for, which are quite a few good ones as well, QPR, West Ham, Man City, Cardiff, who do you feel was the best player you played with?
God, that's a tough question.
Got a like as well.
Well, like Mike Davis at Blackpool. He'll probably tell you he was the best player that I played with. Yeah. He's struggling for confidence as well. No, it's a weird one, because I played with Nicholas Anelka at City as well, and when he was kind of on his game, Sean Wright-Phillips at times was unplayable. There's many players at West Ham while I was there. Di Canel was an unbelievable player, really could win a game on his own, similar to Les. Rio on his day. I mean, it's difficult to say, but all them players, they all on their day could win a game, and it's one of them. Whoever one of them would have been in that team's going to win, and that's what I think is like a class above. And all them players that I've just mentioned could easily fall into that category. It's probably rude for me not to mention Michael Carrick, because I think potentially one of the best ever passes I've played with, and then Frank, for someone who gets every bead of the ability out of his body. When he was at West Ham, I remember his own fans booing him, and he had an unbelievable resilience to keep working, work hard after training on his own. With his finishing, 2-touch, the ball would be whacked into him on the edge of the D. He'd have 1 touch to control it, 2-touch to finish. Scruffy shots, but he'd always hit the target. And then you see what he went on to achieve because of that extra bit of effort. And I tell the boys stories like this all the time when I'm working at the academy, and so try and supersede your own dreams. That's what I try and encourage them to do. Overachieve. That's what I feel I did at times. And then other times I think maybe I didn't do enough. But go and overachieve. Go and surprise yourself and achieve something that you don't think is possible, or there for you with your ability. But Frank he did amazingly well. I'm really, really pleased how it's gone for him.
Obviously played against some pretty good fullbacks as well in your time then. Is there anyone you hated playing against the most?
Cafu.
Yeah, good name.
He kind of puts it in his pocket for the 90 minutes, and then when the final whistle goes, he politely lets you out and says, "Thanks very much, nice to meet you. I'll go and collect my silverware." I actually played against him, obviously, in the World Cup. Didn't get really any change out of him, but played against him about 5 years ago at Old Trafford. And I've done a few marathons over recent years for charities, and thought, I'm fit as a flea. He's a little bit older than me. This is my opportunity. 75,000 at Old Trafford, playing for David Beckham's UNICEF game. And he pocketed me again, and I was absolutely fuming. And I just thought, what an amazing, amazing footballer, And listen, you don't win the World Cup and lift the World Cup as Brazil captain if you're not a special person and character. And he was just better than me. Sometimes you just have to hold your hand up and say, the better man.
That's fair enough. Out of the teams, this might cause a bit of a division, but out of the teams that you played for, which one was closest to your heart, or which one did you most enjoy playing for?
It's almost like saying which is your favourite child. Yeah. And I've got different. Sometimes
firstborn. Then
listen, they've all got special I've got special feelings for like Blackpool. Give me the opportunity to start with. QPR give me that opportunity to really be on a different kind of platform, and you know, obviously I scored a great goal there and got in the England squad when I was 22, 23. West Ham, I probably played my most consistent football and got to a World Cup, and then even Cardiff. You know, obviously I'm a Man City fan, so that was obviously a dream. Got an ambition playing against Manchester United in the Manchester derby, scoring the goal, you know, the opening goal and things like that. And then Cardiff, I got to an FA Cup final with them. Scored against Blackpool as well. I do apologise because I'm not one of them PC guys, as you might have already known. And when I scored, I just celebrated. It was like, yeah, my favourite card at the time. So yeah, it's one of the. They've all got special. I've got a special feeling for all of them. But I just think West Ham, this team we had. I think we finished 5th in 98, 99 or whatever it was, with quite a low budget. The camaraderie, Johnny Hartson, like smashing centre-halves about. Frank and Michael in the middle. Ian Wright was in the squad. Razor nearly ruined my career because he's absolutely wild. And I've got really good friends still from that era. But Paolo as well, you know, a special man. Still got a fantastic relationship with him. So I would probably say my favourite time where I felt like I was flying, and two of my kids were born while I was there, would probably be West Ham.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't say Man City because you've mentioned obviously you were a fan of them before you signed there.
Underachieved there. I'm a realist, you know. I don't bullshit. I probably was too emotional. I wanted to do well too much, and it was probably the time where I'd had 3 knee operations already, so I wasn't the player that they could have got if I would have went from Blackpool, you know, when I played in that game at the old Burden Park against Bolton for City, where Reedy wanted to sign me and Righty. If he would have got me then I would have probably had a fantastic time at City. But unfortunately, they got me at the wrong end of my career, and I tried my best, but it was graft. It really was, and and it was a time when my mum died as well when I was at that football club. So that always, you know, it's always a bit of sadness when I think about that time at the club.
Mm. Sorry to hear about that. Going towards the end of the career then, you took a bit of a break to Dubai. How were those 6 years there? Did you do anything in football there, or just completely switch off from football?
No, that's where I kind of, not by design, but that's where I kind of forward my next part of my life. I started coaching, I started doing media work. I ended up head of coaching at an academy called GoPro Dubai, or GoPro Sports, where I kind of began my coaching career, so to speak. And it's kind of similar to what I do now, but with slightly older kids. And I think the reason I got into coaching, I always thought I could be a good coach. So I always got on with everyone, but was quite business-like when it comes to being on the pitch. So I always thought I'd be someone that I could get players on side and then get them working really hard and educate them. So I started coaching because my kids started playing, and the coach that was coaching my kids was crap, and I thought, I'm not having that. If my kids want to play football, I want to try and teach them properly. So it's about, you know, being agile, having fantastic control over the ball, mastering the ball, having good passing range, being mobily fit enough to get around the pitch, being strong enough to be able to recover from working hard. Really simple, and be able to play simple, but also be able to know the times to go and enjoy yourself and express your ability. So started coaching, and then realised at times when the kids were a bit tired, in summer months, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm a bit tired, Dad," and I'd go coaching on my own, other people's kids. And then I realised I really enjoyed it. So it was something that, as much as I was trying to help my own boys, it was something that I actually had a passion for as well. And that's where I started taking it a bit more serious. So I came back, done my badges, offered my services to the club, was ignored, unfortunately. But it was that era where he was a bit older. And he said, "No, you're really good at media, staying there," which I was sad about because I really wanted to go through the academy at Blackpool and manage Blackpool at one time. But yeah, that didn't work out, and you have to adapt. So I adapted. I think I'd still probably have a chance of management if it wasn't for my bump in the road that I had, which, you know, when you've got two police officers saying something about you, and it's not really worth arguing against it. So I accepted that charge. But hand on heart, you know, my mum's white, my stepdad's white, my wife's white. I'm not going to come out with lyrics like that. But listen, I accepted it, and I'll take the responsibility for that. But yeah, I love coaching, and although I might not be able to coach, I still want to work hard for the change in the game and for the change in diversity, not just on the, you know, you see a lot of black players, you don't see a lot of black coaches, so I'd like to help and be an advocate of change so that we can start seeing a bit more colour in the technical area and further up, you know, for chief executive, director of football and all the rest of the roles, because at the moment, really, primarily we just see black people involved as talent, and then they're not really needed.
Yeah, 100%.
Mention you two. Have you got two kids that are in football? Yeah,
I've got three.
Three.
One of them's a bird magnet, so I don't know what's going to happen with him. Nightmare. But yeah, they all play. I've had two represent England at schoolboy level. Isaac, who's 19, he's just signed for Bamber Bridge. He just left Guernsey. He had a season in the National North last year, and he's just a bit far, and the manager's changed. The manager was Mark Bradshaw. He used to play for Blackpool, so it was kind of a personal one why he went there, and it was a bit of a trek, but he took responsibility and, you know, drove over there twice a week and played games all up and down the country in the National North. So I think it was good for him from a development point of view. It was a tough season though, because they're not a very well funded side, so it was always a battle. So he learnt a little bit about himself. And then Sky, he's in the youth team. He's a hard tackling centre half. Must be the Milkmans, I don't know. But he's a great kid. He's clever as well. Again, must be the Milkmans. So I'm not sure, but he loves it. He's a good athlete. Worked hard in lockdown. We were running together, and he showed me a little bit like he might want it a bit more than I thought he did. And then Colby, who's mega talented, played for England schoolboys as well. Got really more than any of the other two, as in naturally taller than me. Doesn't take much, but he's 5'10". He's only just turned 15, and yeah, I think he's had a few big clubs interested in him, but he's got to do a lot to convince me that he wants to be a footballer, because it's such a competitive industry. If you don't live for it and breathe it and eat it and sleep it, you're probably not going to reach your potential. So we'll see. But yeah, good boys, the fit lads, they work hard, they're honest boys, and hopefully if they want it enough, they'll reach their potential.
Have you?
Are the younger two both at Blackpool then, or which academy?
Yeah, so Sky's in the youth team. He's a second year, and Kobe, he's under 16 now.
Yeah, right.
Have you been teaching them? Obviously, you've got a lot of confidence naturally. Have you been teaching them a bit of the mental aspects of the game?
I think I've always thought confidence comes from training and being sure of what your job is and understanding your role. Now, if you understand your role, you're going to go and you're fit and you've been practicing doing what you're supposed to do in a game. I think you're going to go on the pitch and think, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm fit enough. I'm strong enough. I'm fast enough. I make good decisions on the pitch, whether it's in or out possession. I think it's quite a simple game. So if you know your role, you'll go into it and you'll be comfortable. And that's where your confidence comes from. Now, you start playing well and putting good performances in, that's just going to continue to increase. So, yeah, no, they're good lads. They understand the game. It's really competitive. It always has been. I mean, I'm not saying it was less competitive when I made it. Of course it was competitive. But I think the talented players find a way.
Obviously now, Trev, you reside back on the Foul Coast. What are your thoughts on the current Blackpool setup now, obviously in the Sam and Sadler world with Neil Critchley in charge?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's really positive. Obviously, it's ridiculous times at the moment with the pandemic, but I just feel the fans are not there, but they were there last year. I think the momentum's with the club now and the community. And I think the fans are really desperate to get behind the club. It looks like a new dawn. They've invested very heavily in recruitment over the summer, brought in a lot of players, as the Gillingham manager reminded us the other day. But pressure's on now. I think Neil's he's done really well with the under-23s at Liverpool. So step up because you're working with men. Can you inspire them? Can you manage that group of players? Because I feel a lot of time, listen, any coach can coach. If you know the game, you can coach. It's about how you can manage a group of players and a group of young men and manage the possibly having to drop someone and being honest with the group as well. And then having to deal with Mavericks because, I've seen it before, with Harry Redknapp, having to deal with Paolo Di Canio. Sometimes he brings so much on a Saturday, you have to let him get away with certain things. But then I've seen other so-called Mavericks, giving it, playing up and bits and bobs and then not producing on a Saturday. Well, they just get carted out for me. So sometimes you've got a little bit of give and take, but it's certainly man management. Dealing with a group of young boys who are aspiring to be in the Liverpool team, and then dealing with a group of men who are, possibly this is their highest point of their career where, this is their ceiling. Different proposition. So, it'd be interesting to see how Neil does. I hope he does well because I'm a Blackpool fan as well. And I hope the club do well and at least get back to the Championship because I think that'd be a massive improvement. And the stadium really deserves that kind of standard of football anyway because, it sits well there now compared to the stadium that I played in, which is like a bloody cow stand.
Yeah, you never know. In a couple of years or 3 or 4 years, we might be back in the Championship and one of your lads playing in the first team as well. That'd be the dream.
Be amazing, yeah. I think that's one area where I feel the club have got to improve. We're a cul-de-sac. We've got the Irish Sea to our one side, and we're a little bit separated from the rest of the country, as in big cities. So recruitment-wise, I think we need to invest in an academy. It's very obvious for me. The academy's got to be similar standard to Fleetwood because that's our competition now, which is sad to say. And then I think you've got to have coaches in place that can inspire them players. You've got to have good recruitment. You've got to offer these kids something where they feel, I've got a chance there. So there's got to be that pathway into the first team. You look at what James Hill has done at Fleetwood. And, I know it took an international player going away and a couple of injuries, but he's got his opportunity and he's in there at Fleetwood. I think you've got to have that same kind of, listen, that's the blueprint for football. Unless you've got a mega wealthy owner, and I'm not saying that Simon is not that, but I think Simon wants to try and do it the right way. Your academy, your recruitment's got to be right at that level. Because if you can get that right and start producing your own players, I think that's the kind of blueprint for me for any successful club that wants to sustain that successful rise and improve.
No, you were just saying about the academy, so I was just going to ask in terms of if you've seen much change recently. Probably too early really for Sadler to get much investment in the youth system.
No, I have seen change. With recruitment to the staff, to the organisation and the general, you can just sense that I've got a clue now, whereas it was very difficult. It was almost Mickey Mouse at some times when the investment wasn't there. There was rumours that certain funding that was going into the club to run the academy was being kind of messed about and moved up to pay the first. It was a bit of a shambles, to be honest. And I was quite sad for my kids because I've always been of the thought, and this is why I played for Oldham, play for a local academy if you're good enough. Don't be travelling an hour or an hour and a half in the car and then an hour and a half. You've got no lifestyle. And you see kids doing this, chasing the dream, or the parents chasing the dream. I think it's really, really hard to swallow. And I think this is what I think Blackpool should be doing now. They should be cornering this area of the Fylde Coast, bit into Preston and whatnot. Kids spend 30, 40 minutes getting the best kids in that area and working the socks off to develop them kids into the best players they can be. And that would be my kind of way of doing things. I wouldn't want to bring... We've had success before. We bought up Bright from London, and then he did well for the youth team, and he went to QPR, and he's a fantastic player for Queen's Park Rangers now. And I keep in touch with some of these boys as a bit of a kind of senior player. As a black player, I feel like some of these young kids coming through need a little bit of help now and again. So I'll keep in touch with a lot of them. And I've spoke to Bright a couple of times, and I don't think we should be doing that as a club. I think we should be recruiting from our. There's enough talent in this area to work with and develop. And like, if you start going to say, right, all right, bring lads from down in London and bring lads from wherever abroad, where does it stop? Because you see these academies now, the big academies, and they're getting kids from, not just Europe, they're getting kids from Brazil, they're getting kids from Africa. Where does it stop? And I think you should try and get back to where we all started. And Blackpool, we've always produced players. Get back to there and try and do it the right way. And back your coaches to be able to get the best out of every player. But yeah, no, hopefully it looks like the early signs are it's improving at the academy, and yeah, I look forward to seeing that continue to improve and start developing players. We've only got Nathan Shaw in the squad at the moment. He's a player that we took from Liverpool via maybe another club. I like him as a player, and it'd be nice to see him get an opportunity because he's like 19 now, 19, 20. He's still not played any football. I think it's quite important that if you've got a player in that position, he needs to go out and learn and experience men's football as well as training with the first team. That'd be another thing that I'd put in place. I'd have someone whose designated job was to get these players out so they can go and get the experience at maybe a national north or a national team, get over that hurdle of playing against men, and then when he comes back into that and when he gets the opportunity, he's ready. He's not, daunted by the idea of playing.
Yeah, we've just brought in 2 left backs, so I imagine that'll be his next sort of move, League Two or Conference on loan.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, you and Jamie have got your own little academy set up. Do you want to talk us through that and how are you finding that?
Yeah, it was done up. This is our 4th year. We set it up because we've kind of both experienced the same thing. My son Isaac got released by Blackpool at 16, and Jamie's older boy got released as well, Jordan, off Blackpool at 16. And we were chatting because we, both local lads bump into each other and do bits and bobs together in charity games. And it was one of them where we just felt like there's a real gap in the market of support for these kids that get let go, possibly, and sometimes it's been proved too early by pro clubs, and there's nothing there for them. There's no support, there's no platform for them to continue to have a go with other lads in the same kind of situation. So we set that up. George Thomason was another lad that got released off Blackpool. He signed a pro contract with Bolton about a year ago. So we was really proud that, after working with him for 2.5 years, he kind of started to realise his potential. He's now playing with Isaac, my lad at Bamber Bridge. And I think if any Blackpool fans want to go and watch a game, I know you can't go at the moment, but you want to go and see a couple of, a good side trying to play football the right way. I think Bamber Bridge are a good team to do that, and there's a few lads that could have been at Blackpool, so that's always nice to see. But yeah, so it's gone really well, and I'm there every day apart from a Wednesday, which is when I work in London at TalkSport headquarters. So I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and I love it. I'll get up in the morning. I was lucky because when I worked with Ray Wilkins was still a player, but he was also my under-21 boss for England when we went out to win the Toulon tournament out there, and he was also a teammate and he was also a friend. So he took a lot of things that I do, I learnt from Ray. And one of the things is I run with the players every day. It's not the big stick, you go and run. While I'm still able, I run with them. Because I think psychologically, if you're doing something as a 47-year-old and they're moaning as a 16, 17-year-old, they've got to look themselves in the mirror. So we do the gym runs. We use our environment. What we've got the gyms there. Why not use them? We go to boxing gyms together. But it's just that enthusiasm going out on the training pitch every day. Better yourself, boys. Come out. Don't waste this 2 hours, whatever we're going to work together. Let's get something out of it. Brilliant basics, and I just enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I used to train a bit, and then one of the lads caught me in training, one of the big centre halves. So he broke my cheekbone, and I knew he'd done it straight away. And I've ended up having to have an operation for it. So I thought I've had to drop down a little bit on training with the lads now. But I used to train maybe once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But I trained a couple of days ago with our new first years, because there's a few street kids in there who are a bit cheeky, and we had little games at the end. So I think I scored the winner. And sometimes it's just silly little things like that. They think, they give you a little look like you still got a bit of they're trying to nutmeg you and all this, and you're like, come on guys, behave yourself. But I always do the circle with them in the morning when you do the ronda. I always do that. see if there's a few sleepy ones in there to try and wake them up and get them on the toes and that. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it. And I think the kids, because me and Jamie enjoy it so much, I think the kids get a lot out of it, and they can sense that we're passionate about what we do, and hopefully we'll develop a few more pros in the future.
Definitely. In terms of them getting opportunities, then, is it them just going for trials, or do you sometimes get people coming down and having a look at them?
It's kind of no rhyme or reason. We had for our first group, which we did have a couple of lads from the Blackpool under-16s that came into our academy. Isaac being one, George Thompson being another, Ben Turton was another one. Who else did we have from that Blackpool side? I think there was a couple. There's a couple from Fleetwood. So we had quite a strong year that year, and 8 of them players ended up getting into the Lancashire under-18 side, and they won the Nationals. So they went and played at Stoke, that 365 stadium, beat, I can't, it was like Surrey or somewhere, I can't remember who it was, but they beat them in the final, which was quite, I was working with the Lancashire squad at the time with Andy Buckingham. And yeah, it was quite a nice achievement for the boys to do that, and I think that gave them confidence. And Isaac went and got in the England under-18 schoolboy side that year as well. And I think that group of players, and a little bit probably like what happened with the group of players at Manchester United in '92, you get a group of players that work the socks off so hard as a group, individually, collectively, and they all end up going and doing quite well. And I think we were quite fortunate in that first year where we had quite a few strong characters. And so it's different. George went on to play for Longbridge, and then he got signed to Bolton as a pro. Isaac went to Longbridge as well, and he got signed to Curzon Ashton. We've got a lad, Cam Gawley, who was on BBC recently in the FA Cup game. He came from grassroots, but he did very well in the England trials as well. He was unfortunate not to get in that team. But yeah, he plays for Squires Gate. So yeah, we've got lads doing well at different levels. We try and keep an eye on them as much as we can. And really, we just help them to stick to the principles, stick to the basics, doing the basics well, be fit, understand their role in the team. And yeah, we still work with them. So when they leave the BTEC course, we have a HNC, HND and a degree to follow. So it's a 5-year programme. So we feel like by 21, you're going to know your level. But up until then, you might still need that support where if you're training twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday with a non-league team, you might just still need that Monday, Wednesday, Friday training to make sure not only are you keeping your fitness up and improving on your kind of ball quality and decision making, but also you're keeping that focus and that belief. Because if you've not got that, what have you got? You've got burrs, booze and all the rest of it, and sometimes you can just end up a non-league player. So we want to try and help the boys achieve their kind of potential and get to their maximum level.